Hi, I'm Danger Dan Jers, the host and GM of the D&D Real Play podcast, D&D Dark. Join us on Wednesdays for an absurd, over-the-top comedy horror adventure, starring some of history's most infamous monsters.
I'm Ben Magnet. I play Mary Frankenstein, our barbarian.
I am Daniel Cruz. I am playing Imhotep the Mummy, our cleric.
I'm Jordan, and I play Larry Talbot, a lycanthropic warlock.
I am Grayson, playing Jack Griffin, the Invisible Man, the party's rogue.
I am Aaron. I play the Phantom of the Opera, our bard.
For more information, go to dndarkpodcast.com and listen to us anywhere you find podcasts.
You've read the books. You've learned the rules. You've played the games. And so is your mom. Just making sure you're paying attention. Now, it's time for something completely off base. From the same guys who haven't done anything exciting yet are the Paladins of Podcast, Rob and Potato. Listen in as they talk about all things related to pen and paper games, challenge rules, and go off script. This is the high fantasy commentary you didn't ask for, but your mom did. This is the Epic Table Audio Show.
What's up, everybody? This is the Paladin of Podcast for the Epic Table Games Audio Show, Rob and Potato.
How's it going, Rob?
Dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know what day it is.
Today is
Not
the calendar podcast day.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You know what I'm going to blow out of the water is kind of a few of the things that we want to talk about today. And, Reddit is a great place to get a lot of inspiration, a lot of things to talk about.
Reddit is pretty good. I've come to like it a lot.
Yeah, it's funny because when I initially thought of Reddit, it's kind of like the butthole of the internet.
That's what I've heard for the longest time. That's why I disdained from going there until I just kind of broke down, went on there, and I was happy, actually.
Yeah, you realize it's more like the armpit, and 4chan is the butthole.
Yeah. 4chan. You know, I always go to 4chan when I got my tabletop RPG questions.
I don't know if 4chan is still up. I've never been to 4chan. You know they had 8chan and that was like all really dirty stuff?
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I read a news article about this and I was like, where does the chan come from at this point? I mean, the only chan I'm really familiar with is Jackie.
Whenever I think Chan, I think of that old cartoon Chin Chan. Ever watch that?
No, I didn't know it was the thing.
Oh, dude, it's a dirty show, and I love it.
Maybe that's where they got the 4 and 8 from. I don't know.
Doubt it, but I like the thought.
Fair enough. So, anyhow, we got a few things that just gonna make sense to talk about. We've talked about a lot of different things. We've breezed over a lot of different topics in the last. We have like 17 episodes now.
Yep.
But there are
on the road to 100.
Dude, when we get to 100 episodes, I think 101 should be season 2.
Heck yeah.
Cool. We are almost a quarter of the way there.
That's exciting and daunting.
For show, bro. For show.
We're going to have a new intro, new outro.
Do we? I really like ours.
No, we don't need to do anything. We're good. We're perfect where we are.
We might need new. Yeah, well, why don't you guys tell us what you think? If we ever
season 2, we'll add bumpers.
Actually, I want to start figuring out ways to just bore our audience with commercial advertisements.
Brought to you by Audible.
Yeah, we can't say that yet.
No, we can't.
I'm not going to edit that. I'm not going to edit that out, but we just can't say that yet.
You know how crazy it'd be for us to get sponsored? My goodness.
We're just a few listeners away before opening up that opportunity, actually.
That is nuts.
Yeah, and it's all thanks to you guys. You guys are the reason there's commercials.
That's right. You guys listen to us while you're going to bed at night, so we're in your dreams.
Actually,
appreciate it.
Actually, we put commercials in because we want to quit our jobs and do this full time.
Wait, just to pull back that veil. That's correct.
I mean, everybody wants transparency now, and that is absolutely factual.
Yeah, we're done working, full-time, gut-wrenching, soul-destroying jobs.
Well, we're nerds. We might as well go balls deep at this point. Anyhow, so there are actually a few things that we want to kind of talk about, and one of these blanket statements here is wizards and their spell books.
Yeah.
And so the reason I like this one first and foremost is because generally wizards have to have spell books, and they have to cast their spells out of said spell book, which thematically seems really ridiculous.
It does, don't it?
I mean, you have spell components, you have a big book, you have hand signs, you have special phrases to use, you have circles to draw, etc., and it seems super time consuming, and most games have a full round action of 6 seconds. I mean,
right.
Seriously, come on, doesn't seem super realistic.
Yeah, I've always figured when I was, thinking about magic casting and whatnot, same way how you learn math. You get to the point that you should know on top of your head what you have to say, what you have to know. Why do I always have to flip through the book in order to cast a spell?
Right.
I should know how to do the spell.
Right. And there's a referenced image I can see in my head. I think I seen it earlier today, and I really liked the idea of it. And it looked like the concept was the wizard had all of his spells written on the inside of his cape or cloak or cowl or whatever he was wearing. I like that idea. I think it's really cool.
That's a real middle school cheating thing
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah, and thematically, I mean, the image looked cool as it was. And it wasn't spell protection. It wasn't runes of anything in particular. It was literally just his spell book.
Yeah, it's a really good way to flavor that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I thought it was really neat. And I honestly think that there are ways to do it, not just with wizards and their spell books, but I think there are easy ways to thematically think of a lot of different aspects of your characters.
Oh, yeah.
And I like to see that. And I think the wizard and spellbook idea is just really the first one that jumped out at my mind. It's like, bam, that's one way to do it. I think what makes it so interesting is because it's very plausible to be an intelligence-based character issue. Yeah. I mean, think about it. Your war-heavy, super scarred half-orc barbarian doesn't have much to go on anymore.
Yeah.
He's kind of boring.
It's as fleshed as basic, description can be.
Right.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, when you think of, I'm a half-orc barbarian, that's usually what you think of first thing in your head.
Yep.
He's a big guy. He's already worn out by battle. He's all scarred up and stuff. Same with a wizard. When you think of a wizard, especially with a spell book, first thing you think is, big blue hat, blue robes, long white beard.
Big ears.
Big ears?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
The big grandpa ears?
No, the big round ones.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, boy. So, yeah, you know exactly who I'm talking about. He has a dog named after a planet that's not a planet anymore.
Oh, don't bring that up.
Righteous. Anyhow.
Righteous.
So I think this concept here, and it leads us into the conversation I really want to have, is character thematic elements.
Yes.
And there are a few that I really like and I have seen a few times. For instance, I have a friend who is very dedicated to playing healer type characters. And healers are there to make sure the party doesn't die.
Right.
The party's responsibility is to take damage, deal damage, get shit done.
Yep.
Not die. Healer's there to make sure they can fulfill that duty. But this said healer in particular wanted to play a different healer in a different game. So he was super adamant about a character quirk.
What quirk is that?
Yes, I can heal you. But you have to listen to my sermon, and I must convert you to my religion.
So the whole party has to be a follower of his religion in order to be healed.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
if you said no, he wouldn't heal you.
That's funny.
It was absolutely hilarious.
That is funny.
Absolutely hilarious. And I like that. I mean, these character quirks are what makes your character, and
yeah, especially if you hold true to them and don't make exceptions.
Right. I know that we've talked quite a bit about Thull.
Yep.
And one of Thull's character quirks is he ate everything. I mean, that's what insatiable hunger. That's all he did. And every now and then you get a character that you just sort of find a way to connect with on some level. And just like actors who find perfect roles for them, you find a perfect character for you. With as much experience as you've had, how many characters have you said, you know what, I like this idea, and you've been able to roll with it?
Ooh, of all the characters that I've played, I think really only a couple have been at that level of connection like you and Thull.
Really?
And the sad thing is, they were the characters that I played only a couple of times.
Ouch. So you never really got a really well-developed character that you've liked.
Yep. And I feel, in a lot of ways, one of my more developed characters was the one that got sent to hell in the last campaign.
Really? You think he was one of your more developed characters?
And the only reason why I'm hesitant to even say that is because I didn't enforce my shining light in the campaign. I didn't step in to say what I want to say, do what I want to do, and really role play the character. It was more like I'll step in when there's combat.
That's a very new player thing to do too.
It is, and it's mainly because I want to be nice and have everyone else have their moment. And usually, when a moment arises for me to be, oh, this is a great thing for me to chime in, it's already been glazed over and next topic sort of thing.
Sure. I mean, things do move quick. And when we have 7 players at the table, it gets kind of hard.
Exactly.
Now, it's funny that you say it was Father Albrin, because thinking about a lot of your characters that I've seen, I actually think one of your most developed characters was your samurai, was it?
Oh, yeah. He was one of the ones. He was one of the ones that I really connected with. He was Ryusuke, the summoner samurai.
Now, I think what helped there, and this can lead into another quick topic that we can talk about, is character background stories.
Oh yeah, his background story. You flew with my background story so great. It was real jaw dropping when you turn it all around back at me, basically.
Yeah, and
that was great.
And I think that as a DM, if you're not actively using character background stories, there's no need for a character to have one. Right.
The whole point of the characters being in your campaign is because they're supposed to be part of the story. Make their background be important.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, it's to the point where, especially with your samurai, I was able to take what you had said and the relationships that you had built, and it gave me enough information to develop a story that was for you.
Yeah.
And what I like about doing that is, and another topic here that we want to talk about a little bit, is people kind of hog the limelight.
Yeah.
Giving your character a background story and the DM being able to take that and utilize it means that everybody has a story vein that is particular to them, and it gives everybody an opportunity to shine and do their own thing.
Yeah.
And the limelight hogger, if I don't say that slow, I'm going to say hugger, and it's not what I want to say. It gives them an opportunity to actually forcibly back off. Like, hey, everybody has an opportunity. You've seen it. You've experienced it. This is player B's turn. It's player C's turn.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times what happens is limelight hoggers are generally ecstatic about the game. They're excited to show up. They like to roleplay. They like to engage. And they naturally have a presence about them that allows the other player characters to sort of step back and let them take over the party direction.
Yeah.
And for a storyteller, it's great to have somebody involved.
Yeah.
But it can become nearly tunnel vision. Like, they're involved in the story. Let's
become center of attention and this and that. Yeah.
Yep. So when your characters present background stories, when your players present character background stories, take them and roll with them.
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to really level out that issue of having somebody who really determined that they need to be in the limelight all the time.
I mean, if you look at drama shows or even cartoons, they do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The group of characters that they've dedicated as the ones in the focal point, the main cast, every single character will have their moments in the show.
Yeah.
But it's not like a whole season is about this one guy. Everyone else is just in the background. They pick and choose every so often. Oh, it's going to be his little chunk this episode.
Yeah.
A few episodes later, oh, it's going to be this guy's little chunk.
Yeah, and that's just it, too. I mean, shows, movies, ensemble casts, they all have their own roles. They all have their time to shine.
Otherwise, why are they there?
Right. I mean, it's kind of like Hawkeye.
Who is getting his own show, you see?
You know, I actually read about that, and they said that the best thing that they can do for the Hawkeye show is make Hawkeye suck. And honestly, as much as I agree with that, I think the difference between Hawkeye sucking and Hawkeye having his own show or not sucking is really the fact that he has a show to suck now. It doesn't matter how good the show is. I mean, it's still Hawkeye.
Yeah.
And a lot of people love Hawkeye. I know we're not like a Marvel Cinematic Universe critique show here, but superheroes are one of the next things that are so dear to my heart. I think that in that aspect, what they need to do with Hawkeye is show all of his badassery and show how much of a screw up he is.
At the same time?
Yeah. Like he's great with skill. He's great with a family man. He kind of sucks at anything that doesn't deal with those two.
Yeah,
he's not really likable.
You gotta give him a little bit of that humanity as well. Otherwise, people just think he's boring.
He is boring.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I liked his time as Ronin the most.
The half hour in the movie.
I don't mean just the movie. I also mean in the comic books.
In the comics. Okay.
Yeah. Trust me, you don't say, yo, I really love superheroes and stop it at the movies.
Well, sadly to say, a lot of people nowadays are like, oh yeah, I love Marvel.
Dude.
Wait, what? I'm talking about the movies.
You want to hear some BS, dude? I used to have a lot of really expensive comic books that I collected when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I was in a relationship with a young lady. We lived in Pittsburgh. I moved back up to Michigan here. And we had small cars, so I couldn't take a whole lot of stuff. I asked her if she would keep some of my stuff for a while. She had moved, and she was storing my stuff in the basement, which was fine. But my comics, they were not all bagged and boarded, and they were not all stored in comic boxes, etc. And then the basement she had them stored in, eventually the sump pump died and flooded. So instead of having a bunch of comic books, I had one comic book stack glued together. So, I mean, semi-rare autographed copies of Spawn, or I think I had a few Batman ones in there, something signed by Mark Miller, etc. And I've periodically gone back and checked the value on some of these things, and I wish I didn't.
That's sad.
For sure.
And another thing there too, like at that time, comic books and superheroes were hand in hand. It was the biggest thing about superheroes. When they finally got into making movies with them, it kind of changed the whole dynamic of what superheroes are and changed how comic books are.
Maybe a little bit.
People don't really dig comic books the same way they did back then.
Actually, I would like to counter that with they pay way more attention to comic books now than they did then. Comic books were a huge drive for young political changes. They were a huge force for social causes. I mean, if you look at the X-Men universe, that was totally divided on a bias between race and class. It shows constant discrimination.
Yeah.
You look at, I want to say that everybody tends to favor let me rephrase that. Everybody who starts with comic books at a young age generally loves Batman
Yeah.
and Marvel comics, which I'm not saying any other one particular Marvel comic, but Marvel comics had always dealt with a younger hero audience. People fell in love with Spider-Man, and he was the kid who was balancing two lives, who had regular struggles, etc. Whereas DC comic books were very much so set up for more of a matured adult-style audience.
Yeah.
And not even necessarily adult, but just people who were a little bit older. You know, even if it was later teens into young adult.
Bit more mature content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And, I mean, if you really think about a lot of the heroes that were really popular younger in DC comics, the younger heroes were relegated as sidekicks at first, or not really conceptualized. They were kind of like one-off or secondary characters, whereas Marvel had a lot of adult characters and young characters.
Yeah.
So I want to say that back then it was a way to derive some social change and address social issues that was fringe. Now, with the popularity of the movies, they have tied everything in together so tightly that people who liked the movies are starting to buy and get into the comic books because it's additional content.
Of the movies.
Yeah,
Gotcha. You know, I didn't realize that. I agree with you there, Dak. Yep,
yeah,
you're right.
So I think that's one of those things.
Where did this tangent get off to?
I don't.
What were we talking about?
I don't remember. And like I said,
we're not a superhero podcast,
dude. We are not. But honestly, I could talk about superheroes, and like character studies of superheroes almost all day.
Was this going off of? This is going off of the Wizard still, or no?
I don't know. I think we deviated somewhere along the lines of character tropes. In Limelight Hoggers.
Oh, there we go. That's the.
I remember talking about it. I don't know how we got to where we are now. Anyhow, let's try to pick something semi ridiculous. What are some skills that you have seen in these tabletop RPGs that you absolutely hate?
Ooh, skills like I personally don't like the swim skill, acrobatic skill, and the athletic skill.
Why?
I think those skills are either never used, or when it is a time for someone to do anything with it, they fall to their death.
Okay, that's fair.
Oh no, I gotta do an athletics check to climb up this rope. I fell 50 feet, and I was already at 30 health. Oh no, I'm dead.
Sucks for you.
You know, that sort of thing. It's one of those skills I feel in a campaign as a DM you would have to tell everyone, hey, these are things you might want to keep an eye on, or else they just never be addressed.
I can dig that.
No one rolls those skills, really.
So, I hate craft because you have the skill craft. What do you want to do all the time? Craft.
Right.
I don't. No, you don't have downtime to craft. You are a hero on a mission, and it's got a strict schedule. Stay to it.
Well, that depends on the campaign too. If it is like rush, like Lord of the Rings, then definitely, yeah, you don't got time to craft.
Don't have time for crap. You have time to go. I hate intimidate too, by the way.
Intimidate?
Yep.
Oh, one of your more favorited skills, though. Use it all the time.
Truthfully, that's exactly why I hate it, because when you have intimidate, you just want to intimidate everything.
True. Father Albrin, he fell into that same little niche.
Right.
I had a plus 19 intimidate. Damned if I don't use it.
Yep. Can I intimidate it? Yep, you can try. You sure can try.
When people use diplomacy to gather information, kind of nags at me. I feel that should be a different skill, and I'm mad that it's not.
So in 3.5 it used to be. In 3rd edition D&D.
Oh, really?
You actually had gather information for a skill. Paizo just kind of absorbed it all together. And really it makes sense. I mean, diplomacy is your ability to discuss with people, talk with people, kind of schmooze them in a diplomatic and charismatic way.
Yeah, it does make sense, but I feel some people don't diplomatize and don't gather information the same way You know what I mean?
Sure.
I understand in the bare bones it's the same method of how you would be social to someone, but I feel people do things in different ways, and those two particular things should be different.
Well, that's really what you're looking at. I mean, you could, in a one-on-one situation, be diplomatic and persuasive, or you can be intimidating to be persuasive. And
True.
Your diplomacy check is getting information in a more civilized manner. Say that? Civilized?
Civilized?
Well, I don't see why not. I mean, I usually think of intimidate as more of a
Barbaric.
Aggressive maneuver.
Archaic.
Right? I mean, it is what it is. Somebody says that detect magic at will is an annoying skill.
As a DM, I can definitely see that. As a player, I think it's clutch.
I'd like to detect magic. Nothing. After 5 feet, do I detect anything magical?
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go every corner of the room detecting magic.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I can see why it's obnoxious.
Oh, yeah.
Overall, I can see why players feel the need to do it all the time. I mean...
If a player gets to a point where they have detect magic at will to where it's just like on constantly, then you have to have an established agreement. If I'm telling you this information, don't come at me saying, well, I detect magic, what do I see? I'm telling you already thinking ahead that you're detecting it, all right? This is what you get. I'm not telling you more.
No, if somebody's like, yo, I got detect magic up all the time, I'm like, you know what? When you want to know, let me know. Otherwise, if it's not in the description, I'm going to forget you have it on all the time. In fact, do me a favor and you forget it too.
just assume.
Yep. I mean, sure, it's annoying, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's irritating to the point where I wouldn't really dig it. Now, what about the leadership feat?
I don't know much about it, but I remember correctly, it's with like your familiars and cohorts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know much about leadership, to be honest.
So I played in a game where I took leadership, right? And I had one cohort, and he was a non-combatant. That was the caveat to the DM. He had to be a non-combatant. Because at high enough levels, with enough people following you around, you can essentially have them do whatever you want them to do. And they will go to fight for you if it's not devastating, etc. And it slows down the combat because now all of a sudden you have like 10 guys. Sure, caveat, appreciated. Not a big deal. Most games I play, I don't use leadership. My DMs don't want anybody to use leadership. Most games I run, nobody ever comes to me with, yo, I took leadership. Which, truthfully, if somebody's like, yo, I took leadership, I'm like, yo, let's workshop this.
How about you don't take leadership? Let's negotiate.
Yeah.
Let's find some common ground here.
Yeah.
So what is the leadership feat?
You know what? It would actually be best if we just read the feat itself from the source material. And because you play Pathfinder most frequently, I will bring up Pathfinder. So it simply says you attract followers to your cause and a companion to join you on your adventures. This feat enables you to attract a loyal cohort and a number of devoted subordinates who assist you. A cohort is generally an NPC with class levels, while followers are typically lower level NPCs. See the table leadership for what level of cohort and how many followers you can recruit.
Hey, the character that I'm making for our next session, I'm going to swap out a feat and get leadership. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, you're going to take leadership? Sure.
I want an entourage.
Yeah? Yeah?
He's a celebrity, bro.
Yeah, good old G Money. Go ahead and just shred his character sheet. Roll up a new one. You know what? A meteor comes out of nowhere and lands upon your face. Do you remember how many life points your character has?
Oh, yeah, he has more than enough.
Yeah? He does it exactly 10 more than you have. That
oh,
freaking meteor.
All right, I'm making new character sheets. The same guy, different name.
Oh, does he have leadership?
Oh, yeah.
Same thing happens.
Oh, no.
And you know what? His cloned brother in the next town over, same thing. You don't even get a chance to see him.
No, but he has leadership too.
Oh, it sucks. It sucks. If you have leadership, you get hit with a meteor. How How's that sound?
That's home rule.
Yeah, we workshopped that pretty quick, didn't we?
But what if they're all non-combatants?
Oh, you know what? Let me revise that. They get hit by an asteroid.
Oh, that's worse, isn't it?
I wanted to save one of these things to kind of talk about towards a little bit later in our conversation here. And I think we might have talked about it briefly for a few minutes once. And it's players who fudge their rolls.
Yeah. That kind of sinks back in with the limelight hoggers.
It can.
The people that want to be a center of attention, but on the other side of that, the player side of the attention, not the in-game RP side of the attention. The guys that want to be the best and they'll lie to make sure they never lose.
Sure. How would you handle it?
If I as a DM spotted them cheating, if for some reason something catches my eye and I know what their bonus is and I see their dice, but they give me an inconsistent number with the result, I feel I don't want to bring it up to the whole group, make it a big, huge event. After the session, I probably would talk to them behind and be like, hey, I want to make sure everything's all legit here. Let me double check your character sheet. Kind of play it off as maybe there's a mistake, and I don't want to lose a player because it's very important for the game.
Mm-hmm.
But if he doesn't catch that as, oh, well, now he's watching me, I'm going to stop doing this, and he keeps going at it, then it's either cut the loss or try to get him to see their ways and stop what they're doing. In the nicest way you can, because he's still your buddy, And there's a story I read where they even went to a Pathfinder Society group meetings and stuff, so it's all very legit. All these people gather around the tables, and this guy shamelessly cheating. He's like, oh, I got hit with that much damage. Okay. Does a little chicken scratch on the piece of paper on his character sheet, but not actually giving them any of the damage. Oh, I rolled this much when he plainly rolled a 1. Everyone was there watching him. Like, to be that shameless, I feel we can't be friends. If it gets to that point, I don't know. I can't see you the same way. You're so shameless and blatant about it. It's disgusting. How would you handle it?
I'm going to buck opinion here. I let him.
You just let him?
I just let him.
Oh, yeah, it's small potatoes, right?
No, so a player who feels like they have to fudge numbers and cheat, they either got something going on where they do want to be extra successful, or they do want to have the limelight, or they want to win at D&D, and all that's okay. I mean, it's not a wrong style of play, and it's my job to help balance the game, which is fine. And in retrospect, the way I like to DM is a single player doesn't take every action. So him fudging numbers, I mean, it's not really detrimental.
That's a good point. If it's not really affecting anything, there's no point in saying anything about it.
Right. And honestly, I've found that if I just let them, they're having a good time.
True.
I shouldn't crush their good time. Other people are going to be like, dude, he's fudging his numbers. But honestly, it's okay. Truthfully, if you are all like, yo, I roll 20s all the time,
right?
Whatever. You guys roll 20s all the time. You guys critical everything, nonstop. Whatever. Have a good time. My job is to make sure everybody's having a good time.
Right. Kind of like what I was saying. Don't want to make a big, huge event and kind of change the feel of the game after that.
Right. And
especially if everyone else notices it and whatnot and they start getting mad. It's going to be kind of tough to be like, hey, it's all right, guys. Stop freaking out.
Yeah, and it is. It can be hard in that aspect because when you think about it, what I'm doing is actually allowing people to cheat.
And then everyone else be like, oh, I can cheat too.
Well, a lot of people don't like to cheat.
Hopefully not.
A lot of people don't like to cheat, but a lot of people like to call out the cheater and be like, hey, you know what? It's okay. He's having a good time. It's not affecting the game.
Right.
Like, he's inflating his numbers, or she is inflating their numbers, and I am accommodating for that. And I'm not just accommodating for this individual, I'm accommodating for everybody's successes and failures. You know, like you have joked before, just add 8 to everything. I mean, when a player does that, when they fudge their numbers and they have all those constant successes, A, they tend to get really excited, and B, it takes a little longer, but they start to dial it back naturally. You know, they don't ever really think, man, I've got 100 successes and 0 failures. I've never failed a roll in my life. You can actually see it as they change. They start bringing it down. Like, they're not as always effective. They're letting other people take over. They're letting people shine. Because once whatever they feel like they're lacking in is fulfilled, they dial it back.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
And I don't see any harm in giving them an opportunity to feel good in a scenario where at the very heart of it, it's a game. Like, yeah, I love it. It's, you know, second nature in things that I want to do. I'm like, yeah, let's play, let's roll some dice, let's develop a fantasy world, let's kick some ass. Ultimately, though, it's a game.
Yep.
And somebody somewhere at any given point in time is going to either make a mistake or willingly inflate a number.
I mean, heck, kind of like what happened to me in the last session I played with you. You gave me 4 negative levels. I was like, oh man, now I'm effectively level 1. I wasn't going to update my entire character sheet, and sure enough, forgot that I had the negative levels. I'm like, oh yeah, I got the spell, here's my bonus. It wasn't until after a session I was like, wait a minute, I shouldn't have been able to do that.
Right.
Yeah, that's the folly of the paper sheet as well. No one's going to update your entire sheet just because you went down 4 negative levels. You think, oh, it's temporary, I'll just remember top of my head. And you never remember.
Right. So, I mean, sure, taking notes is one thing. And, I mean, people who don't want to die, don't want to lose their character that they've actually grown accustomed to really enjoying, take less health damage. You know, they heal for a few extra points.
Right.
I mean, honestly, catching it in the middle of the game and calling it out slows down the game. And then, like you said, you're putting the pressure on somebody right in the middle of a social setting. And it's not fun for anybody to do that.
Right.
You know,
I don't want the players to have this stigma about this other player now. Yeah. I don't want them to look at them any differently.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I know that you said, like, it can be hard to be friends with somebody if that's the kind of person that they're going to play as. And I used to be in that position. You know, like, dude, why are you cheating? But ultimately, as I had DM'd and had more experience under my belt, it became the fact that they feel like they need to do it for a reason.
Yeah, I agree with you there, actually.
And to get them to dial it back just requires having that reason fulfilled or met, and then watching them progress back to natural. And what I did find also is that players who don't have an opportunity to shine frequently seem to inflate their numbers a little bit more frequently.
To make sure when they do shine, they actually can be bright.
Yeah. And
makes sense.
Dude, it's such a balancing act between your entire party that it can get hard. And, I mean, you don't just see it in the inflation of numbers. You see it in the people who are involved in their cell phones or doodling, or people who aren't paying attention, or who just feel like they're there to roll dice. And then things that I've seen online is other dungeon masters asking, how do I get my players to be more involved? How do I get them to be less distracted? Or how do I get people to really role play a lot? And sometimes the players who are doing this are just providing as much energy in as they want to get out. And it's okay if somebody's just there to roll dice. I mean, that's not a big deal.
Right.
I like it when everybody's involved in the story. It makes it way more fun. But when somebody spends less time focusing on the game and more time focusing on their cell phone, it's hard to want to involve them at the same time.
Right.
So,
right. Like, you already tapped out. I'm not going to try to call on you and provide a little story arc on your behalf.
Right.
You're still on your phone.
Right. And it can get hard, but
definitely
it does become an issue when we talk about these issues as though it's just a player issue. There are DMs who fudge dice and DMs who constantly make things a super hard struggle and that are really hard to sit down at a table with and whatnot. And, you know, DMs fudging dice is really common. And they
It
they
is.
do it for story or thematic elephants.
Elephants.
They do it for story.
Thematic elephants.
Do it for story or thematic elements. And I understand that, and you can essentially justify it saying, well, for the story, or the DM story here, it really, really makes sense.
Well, I think it just falls in line with one of the major unspoken rules of these type of games, that the DM is always right. You shouldn't question the DM.
As much as I say yes to that, I also believe that you shouldn't have to come to a situation like that.
True. It shouldn't have to be where you have to think about that.
Right. And, I think it's funny because here in the podcast, and when I talk to people online about DMing and things that I like to do and how I like to go about doing things, I have past experience to pull from, and I see how I DM, and I see what I like to see from other DMs, and I'm like, okay, let's integrate that. But then I'm also really nervous about doing something like releasing our side quests podcast, because I'm like, now I'm really putting what I'm saying either to the test, or I'm going to forget what I'm doing, and it's not going to flow right.
You don't want to be burned.
Right. And that spotlight is intimidating. It doesn't mean I'm not going to do it, but little nervous about that, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so when it comes to players fudging dice, honestly, it's a game. If they feel the need, I let them fulfill it, and they eventually dial it back. It sucks. It's hard for other players, but so long as everybody can have a good time, everybody can shine, it's not a big deal in my opinion. So, yeah, it's just the thing it is.
It is what it is.
Right.
I mean, you're absolutely right. You're supposed to have a good time, so have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
Definitely.
That is what everybody says is rule number one, just have fun. Except for a guy I got into a conversation with on Facebook, and this still irritates me, by the way. And we were talking about if it's theater of the mind or using visual representations of things, and whether it's maps, minis, paper cutouts, poker chips for tokens.
Doesn't matter what you use.
Right. And he's like, if you use that, it's inherently better than nothing. I'm like, bro, it's not inherently better than nothing. The fact is that by pushing all of that stuff, you can actually be alienating other people who feel super anxious about a lot of extra stuff on the table, who only ever did theater of the mind and don't equate things to this. And I was like, dude, you're missing the fact that it's not just better because there's more. That's an elitist way to think about it. The idea is to have fun. You don't need anything to have fun.
Some of our best sessions, we had nothing on the table.
Right. And quick combat, you don't need to bust out an entire map for.
No.
You don't need buildings and everything. It's funny because at Epic Table Games, we're in the market to sell enhancements to the games.
Oh yeah, we're making products, but it
they're not
mean
necessary.
They're not necessary.
Right.
It's up to you.
Yeah. As much as I would love everybody in the world to buy our stuff, the fact is that if you can roll without it, roll without it.
Yeah.
And if you're having fun, do what you're doing to have fun. Naturally, I think people eventually want to start getting more.
I mean, shoot, yeah, that's the thing. When you get into the hobby, you're going to get that itch every now and then. Like, I want a new set of dice. I want a mini for my guy because I love my guy this much.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I got this crazy thing in my head. I'm going to get a battle mat that looks like the scene I had. Just so I can help tell everyone else what I'm thinking.
Right.
It's one of those things. It's how you're feeling, how everyone else is feeling about it. You don't have to get stuff.
No, you don't. And having stuff, any kind of stuff, doesn't make it better.
No.
And it's, So, still a little sour about that because the way he wanted to just rail into me about how I was ridiculous and wanted to just
was toxic.
argue. He was. And I don't think that's the kind of person that really has a place in a great DMing group.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to hear the people like, oh well, if you're putting more into it, it's better, because it's not better. You can You can have a crappy story. You can have a crappy lineup. You can judge rules in such a horrible way. It doesn't matter what the hell you have on the table.
Cheesy as a 70s sitcom.
yeah. And his theory was like, well, if everything is the exact same, the person who has more stuff on the table, the game is better. It's not. It's not
true.
In fact, if you feel like the game is better with more stuff, take the time to strip the table down and just play strictly Theater of the Mind.
Give it a shot.
That is the way it was for a lot of people for a long period of time, and they prefer that.
Yeah.
And if that's what they prefer, it doesn't mean the other is better or theirs is better. It means that there's a preference you have to play to, and you cannot say one is better than the other.
No.
And that was my argument. You cannot say one is better than the other. So, all right, guys. Look, check us out online at epictablegames.com. We have our entire community there, and it's still really small. What we're doing recently is actually trying to build our community through Facebook, because our public group and our site, we keep going dark on accident, though, and that's because we keep having production issues with some of our products, and it gets really hard to work on so many projects at one time, which I'd like to talk about some of them in our next episode.
All right. Especially juggling with, family and this and that.
Yeah, working a full-time job, starting a full-time side hustle, having a full-time family. Dude, there's no time for anything.
Yep.
So if you guys are actually doing anything along the lines of what we're doing with family, business, life, and it's getting stressful, keep your head up and keep chugging at it, man.
And please, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts, your stories, crazy things that happened. Anything that inspired you from this episode even. We want to hear about it.
Absolutely. And, we have a contact form on our website. Again, that's epictablegames.com. Or you can just zip us a message on Facebook. Again, our public group is Epic Table Games. So, all right, guys.
Roll that natty 20 and being awesome, my friend.
Laters.
Epic Table Games. Nights, roll, nights, fantastical nights, fairy tales, dragons, quests, nights, roll, nights, fantastical nights. Make way for the paladins. Make way for the paladins. Epic Table Games. Make way for the paladins. Make way for the paladins. Epic Table Games. Thank you for listening to the Epic Table audio show with the paladins of the podcast, Rob and Potato. Until next time, stay in touch on Facebook at Epic Table Games and online at epictablegames.com. Yeah. Epic Table Games. Yeah.